Students, we shall now learn about the changes that British introduced with regard to land reforms. The British, once they assumed control of India, they wanted to increase the land revenues as much as possible to pay for the wars and businesses. As a result, the agriculture was badly affected, with the farmers unable to cultivate the lands with high land revenues. In addition to the land revenues, the famines killed many people. It was then that the British realized that there was a need for a land revenue system that encourages agriculture also. In addition, they were also wanted the farmers to cultivate crops that were in demand in the market besides cash crops like cotton, indigo, sugarcane, wheat, etc. so that they could be exported to England. But students, how do you think the officials of East India Company encouraged investments and improvements in agriculture? After 2 decades of debates on what can be done to encourage investments in lands and improvements in agriculture, the British finally came up with an idea.
The permanent settlement was introduced in 1793 by the East India Company when Cornwallis was the Governor General of India. This scheme was expected to earn regular income to the company while encouraging the Zamindars to invest in improvement of land. According to this, the Zamindars were made responsible to collect the revenues agreed upon in various auctions. In other words, it was also called Zamindari settlement. In the amount collected, 90% should be given to the government and the remaining 10% is retained as collection charges.
This amount was fixed permanently without any future increase. This facilitated for benefiting the Zamindars as they could enjoy the gains of the increased yields from the lands. But students, the Zamindars collected more revenues than the agreed amounts while they constantly increased the revenues and changed the cultivators who failed to pay. Students, if you observe, this settlement unknowingly converted all the peasants into tenants while the Zamindars collected rents instead of revenues from them. As the rents were higher than the revenue, many a times the cultivators failed to pay and left the lands. On the other hand, the Zamindars also suffered and became defaulters. Very soon, East India Company found out that the Zamindars were not investing in the improvements of lands due to the high revenues to be paid. Added to this, during famine or crop failure, there were no revenue remissions. In case the Zamindars failed to pay the revenues, they were entitled to lose their Zamindari. Many Zamindars were sold off during auctions owing to non-payment of revenues. This resulted in instability in the villages while the old Zamindars were replaced by new Zamindars. This situation gradually began to change by the year 1820. The price of the grains increased in the markets while the cultivation also increased. Students, what does this mean? Yes, like we have learnt earlier, the income increased for the Zamindars while there was no gain for the East India Company due to the fixed revenue aspect.
Although the conditions improved, the Zamindars were not interested in improving the lands. While some lost their lands in the beginning, there were others who witnessed the possibility of earning without any kind of risk. The Zamindars were not keen in improving the land as they were happy with giving out the lands to the tenants and earn rents.
As the population increased, the Zamindars were able to force out the peasants and give lands to the new tenants at greater rents. But students, on the other hand, the cultivators felt this system was highly unjust. While the rents they paid were high, Their rights on the lands were unsafe. They had to borrow loans from moneylenders to pay the rents they were evicted from their own lands by the Zamindars.